Living in an inaccessible society got me feeling like an alien. It has taken me a long time to accept the fact that I have a disability and that I'm different from many. And it took a long time for me to accept this part of my multi layered identity. Um, for a long time, society has made people with disability feel inadequate, like a burden, like we are nothing, like we are other and easily disposable. And from the work that I have been doing for 2+ years with the I Am event series, Disability, Art, Life, and Culture, I really had the opportunity to learn about myself and how my multi-layered identity and multiple disabilities affects me, the pros and cons to it, and also how it empowers me, how it provides me with special abilities that I was running from before. Because now I'm letting it be known that neurodivergence is a superpower, and the superpower is creative geniusness. And some of the most brilliant artists was neurodivergent. And the one that I like to talk about the most is Octavia Butler. She was such a badass. She had dyslexic. She was dyslexic. Yeah. And like the parallel universe that she was able to create through her writing and how her work continues to live on, and people are making at movie adaptation and graphic novels. She is an epitome of being a badass and living in your truth. And now I'm ready to admit something that I have been scared to say for the longest, that I knew has been true ever since like I was a little girl. And just like learning to live a comfortable, successful life as being a traumatic brain injury survivor. But I strongly believe in my past life that I was Harriet Tubman for a couple of different reasons. The first being that Harriet was 13 when she first sustained her traumatic brain injury from being hit in the head from a heavy object at the age of 13. And I was 13 when I sustained my traumatic brain injury from being hit by a car at the age of 13. And the second instance of how I know this is from conversations that I had with my mom. Like when she used to tell me that I used to wake up in the middle of the night screaming from excruciating knee pain. And also from having these conversations with my mom, I also remember these nightmares that I would have that would place me back in the slavery era. And in these nightmares, it was of me running, escaping from freedom. But it will always end with me getting captured and getting nailed to a tree. And I take those nightmares will often seep over into my reality that led me to live a life of living in constant fear of the fear of me and my family being re-enslaved again. And that fear has been like a heavy burden on me. It has been something that has stifled my growth and from living like a full life of how I envision. And it has like taken a long time for me to get to this point. But I am growing each and every day and learning about myself. But I take those nightmares as a fear that transformed over from my past life when I was Harriet Tubman up to now, of fears that she might have, because a lot of times we really don't think about Harriet Tubman as the person or the woman, the fears or the challenges that she may had. We only see her as this bigger than life, this superheroic figure. But like the sleeping spells that's often talked about that she had, I associated with the silent seizures that I have. And and knowing what I now know with having like a disability, I couldn't possibly imagine living back then and learning how to communicate with people and making sure my needs get met, because like disability, accommodation, accessibility wasn't even thought of back then. And so I think that in this lifetime, it's my mission and my purpose to fully understand how TBI affects me and how to live a more comfortable, successful, and independent life as a traumatic brain injury survivor. And to also to help liberate people from mental imprisonment. It has been like a long journey getting up to this point, and it has been a very big driving point in the new direction of where my work is hidden at. I have been given like a lot of clues over the time, ever since I found out on the sperm donor side of family that I have roots in Gullah Geechee, in Gullah Geechee roots, and just learn about Gullah Geechee history and about hoodoo and the richness of how African culture was sustained and how they was able to recreate something from the origins of the tradition that's continued to live on as Black American culture. And and I have been really inspired by Misha Green work. Like ever since like I first learned about who Misha Green was with the TV series Underground, I absolutely loved it, and I just finally had the opportunity to watch Lovecraft County, whatever it's called, on Tubi, and like I really enjoy her work and how she showed the power and the brilliance of Black American culture, and how she take the spin on all the movies that we have seen in the past about like the civil rights movement, about Jim Crow and segregation, that was made in Hollywood, that showed like our ancestors as punks and wimps, and that we didn't have no power and we just accepted all the harm and the control and the evil that white people inflicted on us. And I just love the fact that in her work that she shows the fight of the people, how they stood their ground, and like no matter what, like they was going like and like attain like they freedom no matter what. And I think like so powerful. And that's where like my work is hidden, and especially in the focus on Black disabled women, because through all the work that I have been doing for 2+ years, I learned out that fat meat ain't greasy. I learned how Black disabled talents are being pushed to the back and to the side to make more room for white disabled talent and non-Black people of color disabled talents. And now it's like I'm just being unapologetic about who I am as being a Black disabled woman, and understanding the fact that Black disabled people in America have a very unique experience compared to any other ethnic group with disabilities. Because when we thinking about the origins of how disability became taboo in the Black community, we have to go all the way back to 1865, because enslaved Black people with disability wasn't able to leave the plantation as freely as a non-disabled counterpart. They had to stay on the plantation due to mental cognitive challenges, or they was placed in mental medical institutions. Or you have other stories like Blind Tom Wiggins, who never reaped the full benefits of his gifts and talents, but the white people who own him did. Because another thing, what happened to Black disabled people during the late 1800s and early 1900s, they was either placed in human zoos or freak shows. And then we also have to think about how Black geniusness and creativity has been robbed and taken advantage of ever since my ancestors was brought here to the shores of America in 1619. Because when we think about the how Jack Dan, the liquor, the brand Jack Daniels came to be, the stories say it came from um like a Black man invented, but his slave owner uh, had took advantage of, took what's the thing took ownership of it. And there's countless other stories like that, where white people took ownership of things that Black people created and produced during the slavery era, because Black people were seen as property. And then we continue to see that within the entertainment system of how many Black artists died poor, but film studios, music studios, and other art institutions continue to reap the benefits off of Black art, off of dead Black artists. But Black people continue to live in poverty with all the genius that we have within sight. And it is like, my mind is all over the place, but it's real crazy. And from all the work that I have been doing for 2+ years, it has led me to my mission of disrupting Hollywood, to make it more inclusive for Black women who are neurodivergent and chronic illness. Because I strongly believe if the film industry was more inclusive and accessible, Chadwick Boseman would still be here. He wouldn't have to live in constant fear of fulfilling his dreams before his sickness took him out. And I'm just it's just like so many things that I continue to like deal with. And it's just like so hard talking to people, and especially when they look at me crazy when I'm having like conversations and I'm standing up for myself about what I need, and how what I need in order for me to like communicate effectively, and making sure that I absorb and process the information effectively, or I I can't think of the word, but it is what it is. But yeah, it's so much work that needs to be done to create a more inclusive and accessible society for all, because people with disabilities shouldn't be suffering, shouldn't be stressing out about how they're going to eat or how they're going to make a living or fulfill their dreams. And just thinking about SSI, you like, it's only like $700, $900, or probably more depending on where you live, a month. And with the cost of living constantly going up, especially with rent, it's really crazy. And especially what these landlords or these companies that own buildings are doing to raise the prices and to get more money out of the tenants. It's really crazy. And I'm just telling, like, people be on that foo ass shit and just thinking it like real saucy. But all of that has taught me and reaffirmed me to stand in my power and to not allow people to treat me any type of way. And that still is a work in progress that I'm continuing to learn each and every day. And 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 I had to cut off a lot of people in order for me to get to this place and continue to learn. But yeah, but before like I hop off, I want to read the four from the disability resource guide that I co-authored. That's called "Being Black and Disabled is the New Cool," and finna get right into it. So, Black people have been all about the read since forced here in chains. Yeah, they had us locked in the chain gangs. They robbed our humanity. So we had to become all about that read. Hell, hip hop reinvented everything. I'm talking about the core of hip hop, not the stuff being constantly blasted to the masses, not the watered down version of hip hop, not even the commercialized version of hip hop. I'm talking about the roots of hip hop, and at the root of hip hop, you got nothing but blackness. Blackness is all about that read. Black people with disabilities living in America have a very unique experience compared to any other ethnic group with disabilities. Even after 1865, Black people with disabilities were still enslaved because they couldn't leave a plantation as freely as their non disabled counterparts. It has been documented that the descendant of these Black people were enslaved all the way up into the 1960s. Blind Tom Wiggins never received the fullness of his talents, but the white people who own him did. Not too long ago, February 2022, a white-led disability organization appropriated the work of a Black disabled collective. This white-led disability organization won a diversity, equity, and inclusion award for Black Future Month, and the Black creators received nothing. Funny how history repeats itself. We are taking back our power. We've been here and we ain't going nowhere. Taking up space we shall and being unapologetic about who we are because it's what we do. This book is dedicated to creating a new era, a fresh and bold new legacy. The new cool is being Black and disabled. Get in tune and make sure you get some of this coolness. Yes, in that order. And yeah, you can get like and see a copy of the resource guide by clicking on the link that's in the description of this video, and click on the link that said disability resource guide. This guide provides a lot of tools and resources to help BIPOC people with disability to help them build their business and help establish themselves as artists, and also educate non-disabled people how to create more inclusive and accessible spaces for all. And also, in the same link, you can click on the tab that says Disrupting Hollywood to take the survey that I have to help me understand the magnitude of how inaccessible the film industry is. And I just want to lead off with this word of this phrase that I learned in the fourth grade that I continue to live by. Is it go by good, better, best. Never let it rest until your good become your better and your better become your best. And that's the word that I want to leave y'all off with, and to remind y'all to continue to be kind and gentle to yourself, and to know like there's so much work that needs to be done and create a more inclusive society and empowering the Black disabled voice. Because when we think a lot about like the ADA laws, the Black disabled people who helped establish that legislation is erased, and the fact that a lot of components of the ADA bill or the act or the laws come from the work that the Black Panther Party did. So it's just like a lot of work that needs to be done, because being Black and disabled and a woman, I have to deal with misogyny, racism, and ableism. And I'm at a point where I'm just tired, and I'm no longer how accepting how society tell me how I need to act or need to be, because my disability isn't a tragedy, it isn't a burden, it is an extension of who I am. It is something that empowers me, and it is my superpower. And in that